Joining me, we have American University professor and the author of the book Hate in the Homeland, the New Global Far Right, Cynthia Miller Idriss. Cynthia, welcome to you. I'm curious your response to these latest updates we got from Kathy Park that Jabbar recorded video with those Meta glasses during trips to New Orleans before the attack. And we're playing some of that video. It has been released by the FBI, and we note that the agency did, blur the faces of pedestrians that he encountered there. But give me your thoughts on that.
Well, we see sort of at least two things from the use of the Meta glasses. One is that terrorist actors, violent extremist actors, will always innovate. They're always going to be on the cutting edge of using technology, whether it's AI-generated nude undressing apps that we see kind of being used to exploit women, or things like these Meta glasses. It's very hard to keep up with the bad use of technology that's available. And the second thing we see is that there clearly was planning going on here. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. There was at least weeks of advanced planning going on here into thinking about the location and the target.
Extraordinary. A new NBC News article highlights experts who are saying that the U.S. is in a perfect storm right now for radicalization, and finding extremist communities online has never been easier, and the threat has never been higher, and it comes from a more diverse set of groups. I mean, let all that sit in, right? What are the factors brewing this perfect storm, and what is driving this path from radicalization to actual violence?
Well, we have a couple of different things happening at the same time. One, it's incredibly easy. I mean, everyone is really only 2 clicks away from bad information, gateways to bad information kind of at any time online. Depends, no matter where you are, bad actors can insert themselves into a comment or into an in-game chat in a video game. And it opens up rabbit holes where you can go down and find bad information, manipulative propaganda. So on the one hand, people encounter it much more easily than when you had to be kind of invited into a group or go to a backwoods gathering where there were clear manifestos. On the other hand, there's rising support for political violence on both sides of the aisle. There's a wider range of mobilization from young people who feel there is no political solution to problems like climate change or healthcare reform. And so that's what the perfect storm means, is that you have traditional types of ideological problems and then also newer ones as well.
And in an MSNBC.com article, you write the U.S.'s main strategy for preventing terrorism is known as secondary prevention, which focuses on foiling attacks before they happen. You note other countries put more emphasis on primary prevention, and the U.S. would be wiser to invest in this strategy. Can you explain the difference between them and why primary prevention would be a more effective approach?
Well, once you have so much bad information circulating online and such ease with which people can encounter it, along with a wider range of vulnerabilities to it. I mean, people are more isolated than ever before. We've got crises of connection among many men. We have 3/4 of deaths of despair attributed to men. I mean, we have a lot of people who are searching for something, meaning, purpose, belonging, and so in that case, you need to intervene in some of those root causes, help people be more digitally and media literate, but also help them address some of the reasons why they feel so angry, disconnected, and seeking kind of redemption and revenge through violence. That is different than just hoping that we can stop every attack by building better barricades, which is what we've been doing for the last 20 years. That's secondary prevention.
And you note the main terror threat in America is the lone actor inspired by extremist ideology, who may have little or even no direct contact with jihadist or far-right groups, which appears to be the case with Samsudeen Jabbar, who radicalized after a string of personal crises, but his motivations remain unknown. Does he fit the profile for you of someone susceptible to becoming a homegrown extremist?
Absolutely fits the profile, especially because, and this has to be articulated with great care, veterans, people who have had military service are at greater risk often for radicalization to ideologies that they think offer them on the radical fringe a greater sense of purpose, meaning, redemption, a place to be heroic, belong, to enact that sense of duty that might have attracted them in the first place. So we do have a disproportionate problem among veterans, even though, of course, the vast majority of veterans are peaceful citizens who love their country. So, I think that's one of the vulnerabilities. He also had a string of personal problems, financial problems, 3 divorces. I mean, a lot of things that make someone more vulnerable to looking for a sense of purpose and finding it in bad places.
Okay, Cynthia Miller Idriss, thank you so much for weighing in. Appreciate you.